Okay, so now I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about Module 1, Lesson 5 for College Prep Math 2. This one's on subtracting integers. Okay, so the good news is we're not going to memorize a bunch of new rules. We're just going to have one kind of simple rule. But the bad news is we're going to have to really be good at the adding integer stuff that we did before in order to use the strategy we're going to take today. Because really, we're not going to memorize a bunch of new rules for subtraction. What we're going to do instead is we're going to learn how to rewrite subtraction problems as equivalent addition problems and then use the rules that we've already learned. Okay, so subtracting, one thing about it is it's really the same as adding the opposite of a number. And we've talked about opposites before. Opposites we're going to get by just changing the sign. So if I have something like 5 minus 3, we all know that that's equal to 2. We've done that a million times, right? But we can also, kind of use this rule to kind of see how this would work. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So if I have 5 minus 3, I can rewrite this as 5, change that subtraction to an addition, and then take that second number and replace it with its opposite, right? So the opposite of 3 would be negative 3. And then I can use the rules that we did from the last. Silly for this problem, of course. We all know how to do 5 minus 3 already, but it does work. Like our rules, when our signs are different, are subtract the absolute value. So 5 minus 3 is 2. And then take the sign of the larger number. So since 5 is bigger, we're going to get the right answer there as well. So it's kind of silly for this problem, but if I change those signs, if I change this to, or change the order here, to 3 minus 5, that's not quite so simple for most people, right? We haven't done that our whole lives. So this is where this process is going to be useful to us. Subtracting is the same as adding the opposite, is what this says. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to take this. We're going to leave that first number the same. We're going to change the subtraction to an addition. Okay? And then we're going to replace that second number with its opposite. Okay, and this is something you'll see pretty often when you have a negative number in the second position. Sometimes you'll write it in parentheses just to make it a little easier to read. Doesn't mean anything special, just there to make it easier to read. Okay, and then we can use our rules that we learned in the last lesson for adding integers to work this out. Our rules say subtract the numbers, big minus small, forget about the sign, so 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, and then take the sign of the larger number. Well, in this case, 5 is larger, 5 is negative, so my answer is also negative. Okay, so let's try this a couple more times. Might have something like negative 5 minus negative 3. Okay, so again, we're not going to learn new rules for subtracting integers. What we're going to do instead is we're just going to rewrite this subtraction as an addition problem so we can use the addition rules that we've already learned. So I'm just going to bring that first number down. We're going to change our subtraction to addition, and then we're going to take the second number and we're going to replace it with its opposite. So the opposite of negative 3 is 3. Okay, and so now we've got it rewritten as a problem that looks very similar to what we did in lesson 4. We've got different signs. Okay, when our signs are different, our rule says to subtract the numbers. Forget about the signs, subtract the numbers. So 5 minus 3 is 2, and then take the sign of the larger number. So since 5 is larger and 5 is negative, my answer is going to be negative. Okay, so again, we're not going to learn a bunch of new rules for subtraction. All we're going to do instead is use this one rule to rewrite our subtraction as an equivalent addition problem, and then we can use the rules we've already practiced. Okay, so let's do a few more. Let's say we have something like 16 minus negative 6. Again, this one actually looks a lot more complicated than it is once you get it rewritten. If we go through our process here, it says we're just going to rewrite this as an equivalent addition problem. So we're just going to bring our first number down. We're going to change our subtraction to an addition, and then we're going to replace the second number with its opposite. So the opposite of negative 6 is 6. And so really, these are just two positive numbers. 16 and 6 we're adding together, and we've got it. Okay, so again, we want to use this strategy to rewrite. And again, I know you can put all these things in your calculator. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and I would probably do it if I were you, especially on a test to check. But what you don't want to do is just completely ignore the patterns that are going on here, because if we can understand a little bit about what's going on with the addition and the signs, why did we get a positive number, it's really going to help out when we start to put more variables into this process. And we're not just dealing with numbers. Our calculator won't just do that for us when we have some variables in there. So it's important that we start to see some of those patterns if possible. Okay, so let's do a few more. Let's look at a couple of problems maybe that's a little more, have a little more going on. So let's do this. -7 plus 3 minus -25 minus 15. So this one, we got 4 separate terms here, 4 separate pieces that make up this problem, but I'm going to go ahead and start by just rewriting the whole thing by changing all of my subtractions to addition. So I'm not really going to change these first couple of pieces because it's already got an addition there, right? I am going to change this subtraction to an addition here on this next term. Okay, so change that minus into a plus, and then replace it, set the next number with its opposite. The opposite of -25 is 25, right? And then over here, very similarly, I'm going to change that subtraction to an addition. I'm going to change that number to its opposite. Okay, and now in this problem, everything in here is an addition, right? And so our order of operation says just do it from left to right. So we're just going to do that kind of one step at a time. You can really do this in whatever order you want if it's all addition. But I'll just start over here. So -7 and +3 signs are different. So I'm going to subtract those numbers. So 7 minus 3 is 4. Take the sign of the larger number. Okay, we'll keep going. Let's do this pair next. -4 plus 25, again, signs are different. Our rules say to subtract those absolute values, so 25 minus 4 is 21. Take the sign of the bigger one. Okay, and then finally we're going to do this piece here. Signs are different. Okay, signs are different. We're going to subtract, so 21 minus 15. And then we're going to take the sign of the larger one. So since 21 is larger and positive, 6 is going to be my answer there. Okay, so when you have a little more going on, and there are a few more terms in the process, we just want to get them rewritten, right, by changing our subtractions into adding the opposite, right? And then once we get them rewritten, it's just a matter of kind of doing everything we learned in lesson 4 kind of one step at a time until we get down to the end. Okay, now one quick thing about subtraction that can be pretty tricky is sometimes we'll have some word problems, some simple word problems that have subtraction in them. They might look something like this. We might ask you to subtract 6 from -9, for example. Okay, subtraction can be very tricky when we put it into an English sentence like that, because the order does not stay the same. We have different terms, and the order is going to be a little different for all of those. Like if I was to ask you to subtract 3 from 10, most people would just be, oh yeah, that's 7, right? 10 minus 3 is 7. But what I said was, I said subtract 3 from 10. And what most people will just do kind of naturally when the numbers are kind of nice like this, they don't have any signs in them, is they'll just say, oh yeah, 10 minus 3 is 7. But look at what I did there. I changed the order, didn't I? Subtract 3 from 10. When I rewrote the problem, it became 10 minus 3. And this is the correct answer. This is what you should do. So this phrasing, subtract from, is one where we need to take our pieces, we need to flip the order around. Okay, so if I'm going to do this, subtract 6 from -9, I'm going to flip the order around. This is going to be the same as -9 minus 6. Okay, and now that I've got it written, I'm just going to do what we've been learning in this lesson. I'm going to change the subtraction to adding the opposite. Okay, and then you'll notice my signs are the same here. I'm just going to follow my rules from lesson 4. My rules are add the numbers. 9 and 6 is 15. Keep the sign. Okay, so negative 15 is what we're looking for there. So you want to be a little bit careful with this subtracted from phrasing, because if we have that, we do need to flip the order around. And so you do have to pay attention when you're trying to translate these sentences into math problems and work from there. Okay, so hopefully that's enough to get you started on lesson 5. Please don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'm on campus most mornings, so and Monday, Wednesday afternoons. So if you would like to get together in the math lab, we can work on things, and I can also answer questions via email. So just let me know what I can do to help. I'll have a good day.